Oh, Councillor Maxwell.
Hi.
Hey.
How's everyone tonight?
I'm good.
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Very good.
Good.
No pain meds tonight. I feel really good.
Hey.
Sorry for missing last meeting. I was planning to be there, and then I was going through the withdrawal off the my pain meds, and I was in a dark place.
I understand.
Better now, though.
Good, good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. I have an agenda addition request from Councillor Maxwell, and it's concerning the Castle Home flyer that we all received, I believe it was last Friday. And Councillor Maxwell would like to discuss that. So I'm going to put that under P, as in Peter, under the action letters, if that's okay. And then we can proceed. So does anyone have any written disclosure of pecuniary conflict of interest? Councillor Cross.
We just lost Councillor Cross.
Okay. Sunny Night.
Do we have to accept the changes? Do we have to vote on the change?
Yes.
The
Oh,
change
yeah.
that you did?
I'll ask that once Councillor Cross comes back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. Won't touch that button again.
Yeah. Okay, so we've added a request for an agenda addition to the action letters under item P, as in Peter, and it's requested by Councillor Maxwell to discuss the Castle Home flyer that we all received last week. So before we go on, I'm going to ask each of you for approval to add that to the agenda. Councillor Cross?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, obviously.
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Absolutely, yes.
And Councillor Shipham?
Yes.
Okay, so that item will be added. So next item on the agenda is written disclosure of pecuniary conflict of interest. Councillor Cross, do you have any pecuniary conflicts of interest?
None.
Councillor Maxwell?
No.
Councillor Olmsted?
No.
Okay, and Councillor Shipham?
No.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is number 3, petitions delegation, and we don't have any this evening. Next item on the agenda is 4, reports from municipal officers, and we don't have any of those this evening as well. Next item after that is reports from committees, and we have none this evening. So the next item on the agenda is action letters. So our first action letter is to adopt the minutes of the Tuesday, September the 14th, 2021 regular council meeting. So I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder to bring this up. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, sorry about my dog.
Councillor Cross, can you second that one, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Olmsted, second by Councillor Cross, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, September the 14th, 2021 be hereby adopted and signed as circulated. Any discussion, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Councillor Shipham?
No discussion.
Okay, I'm going to bring this resolution to a vote then. Do you vote to accept the adoption of these minutes, Councillor Cross?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And Councillor Shipham?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so this resolution is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request from Councillor Maxwell for our last meeting. And he wanted to follow up on Mr. Cuff's suggestions from the August 24th regular meeting. I'll give you the floor, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Panel. The issues, I found it very informative, the presentation that he gave, and I thought that some of the suggestions that he suggested to us should be implemented. Establishing the CEO, he thought that was important that we do that. So I think we're probably working towards that. And using the RFDs, I noticed that when I watched the Mattawa town meetings on Mondays. It just pops up on my Facebook for some reason. And they use that and it seems to go smooth. It seems to be the issue is presented with a recommendation at the end, and it's either there's some discussion, but generally the recommendation is accepted. And having that recommendation probably makes it a little easier for us, really. And then a couple of things they said that were interesting, focusing on results and reporting that to the public. I found that is something that we probably should implement as well, and developing the public strategic engagement strategy, which I think we're doing that pretty good. Actually, we had a big improvement in the amount of people that watch our because we're on Zoom. A lot of people check in. I'm actually quite impressed with the numbers I see when I look at the amount of people that have watched our meetings, and I think that it's that we've done well in that area as well already. And he had his videos for sale. Maybe we don't want to spend $1,000 on videos, but it would be his presentation would be good for first-time councillors to hear when after the election next year. Perhaps we could implement some of that training off the bat. Having training in our fourth year, I guess we are into our fourth year now almost anyway. It's not as valuable to us because we're going to have a change probably of some type in the election next year. But maybe after that, we could look into having some initial training that would benefit all of the councillors. I just wanted to hear what everyone else thought about that presentation.
Okay, that was good, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Shipham, do you have any ideas, any thoughts?
No, I think that we should be establishing the CAO as quickly as possible. That seems to make it easier for everybody to know who they're supposed to be reporting to and who reports to us without having a different opinion or flow chart. I pretty much agreed with most of what George said, and he had some very interesting ideas, and if we can manage to get some of them into our playbook, then I think it would benefit everybody. And whether you're a new councillor or an old councillor, after an election, everybody should take the training one more time as a reminder for the older councillors, and the new councillors get a first-hand look about what they should be doing and should not be doing. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah. He was very, very informative, and I really appreciate his input. Um, a couple of things. So council gives direction to senior staff, and we work with the mayor, pop by the mayor and see, have coffee. I would love to do that. Questioning is great, by the way. And we're here to serve citizens as best you can. Roundtable discussion with public. Love that. We're not elected to be managers. Great that. And then we are not employees. We get an honorarium, not a paycheck. And if somebody writes a letter, just answer, that's interesting. It would save us lots of money. That's it. These are all quotes.
Is that all, Councillor Olmsted?
Thank you. So we're to work in the best interest of the whole municipality and do our best. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cross, any comments, suggestions? Your thoughts?
No, I agree with all of the comments made by the councillors and support it completely.
Okay. I always like listening to Mr. Cuff. I did agree with the videos for sure. It would be probably less dry than reading, all right? We'd still have to do reading, mind you, but a video is always like pictures and words, right? You get a lot from pictures, right? And how it's presented in a video. The community engagement, I think we have quite a few people coming out to look at our meetings. I don't know the purpose. I think it's because they're interested in what's happening in the municipality and what we're going to do going forward, and that's a really good thing. I definitely agree with Mr. Cuff's recommendation to move towards a CAO model. He's brought that up now in a couple of meetings, as well as another meeting I attended with him, with the Mayors of Ontario. So I think I asked Cindy if she could do some research on that, and I believe she had it ready for the last meeting, but I don't know if she's got it ready for tonight, and I don't want to blindside her with that. But I'd like to propose that we do move ahead in that direction, like in the very near future. I realize we'd have to amend some bylaws, but I think we should do it. I think it makes sense. All right. Cindy, do you have anything that you can share, or am I blindsiding you here now?
What I had prepared for the last meeting was just examples of CAO bylaws.
Right.
They are still in the council package that you had for the September 4th meeting. I just was looking for comments. Was there anything in particular that council liked about some, didn't like about them, you know, those types of things? I could build a report for the next council meeting or at least a council meeting in October, let's say, and build a draft one. I just thought if there was any preliminary thoughts from the examples that I did provide council of what they liked and what they didn't like, then we can move forward. I can tell you that there's a suggestion that we don't use the title CAO. CAO stands for Chief Administrative Officer. That we use, something like Municipal Administrator. It just CAO seems to confuse a lot of members of the public. They don't know what it means, that type of thing. Whereas Municipal Administrator seems to be a little bit more straightforward. People understand the role of that person, etc. So it's a matter of a title, in all honesty. But if it allows the public to understand the position better, it might be better to have a more informative title.
Councillor Olmsted, do you have something?
He said administrator would be a good word. administrator, treasurer, clerk. So that's a good suggestion as well. I think we don't want to use
Okay.
CAO. Yep, that's all.
So is everybody in agreement of Cindy bringing something to our next meeting regarding examples and suggestions for the bylaw and for the CAO description? Councillor Cross,
Yes, I agree.
Councillor Maxwell,
Yes, I'd like to see that information. I have some questions, so it'd be good to discuss it.
okay. Councillor Olmsted,
Yes.
okay, and Councillor Shippen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. All right, our next item on the agenda is bylaw number 2021-025. It's amendment to the employment and hiring policy to include a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September the 30th. And I'm going to need a mover and a seconder for the third reading. Councillor Shippen, can I get you to move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Maxwell, can I get you to second it?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have the third reading, moved by Councillor Shippen and seconded by Councillor Maxwell, that this being a bylaw to establish a hiring and employment policy for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin, to add the Truth and Reconciliation Holiday to the list of statutory holidays recognized by the Corporation of the Municipality of Calvin, as reported by the Committee of the Whole, to be read the third time, passed and numbered 2021-025, and that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, sealed with the seal of the Corporation, and be encrossed in the bylaw book. Any discussion on this? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
Only that I'm kind of, this one kind of confuses me a bit because a statutory holiday, in my opinion, is usually it's everybody gets it off, but this is only the municipalities are getting off who have signed up for this, and the federal government, is that who's getting this off? So, I mean, post office and banks, maybe not banks. Okay, no,
Yes,
I'm fine.
the federal government. A lot of municipal establishments have also taken it.
Sure.
Just as I guess it's to honor the agreement between the Canada and the Indigenous community, and the hard work that they've done over the last few years in bringing this policy forward.
Sure, I'm in favor of it. It's fine.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted, your thoughts? Any discussion?
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of it. My husband is Indigenous. I've seen that some businesses were closed for half a day though, but I'm in favor for the entire day. But
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shippen.
No discussion.
Okay. So I'm going to bring this one to a vote, the third reading. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no to proceed with the third reading? To agree to the third reading?
Yes.
And Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
yes,
And Councillor Shippen?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So the third reading of this bylaw is passed. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda was Municipality of Calvin Administration, item D, and it's no changes to the media policy. We discussed that at the last meeting. Okay, is Renton on that one? To have a. Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder on this one as well. So Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one, please?
Yes, Kent.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we have this resolution moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Cross, that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin has reviewed the social media policy for 2021 and has no changes to be made to the policy. Any further discussion from our last meeting? Councillor Cross,
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell,
No discussion.
okay, Councillor Shipman,
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted.
No discussion.
Okay, I'm going to call this one to a vote. So I'm going to ask Councillor Cross, do you vote for the policy to remain as it is? Yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And Councillor Shipman?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So the social media policy will remain the same with no changes. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is item E. Report from the Clerk Treasurer, 2021 CT 49, film industry policy. We were asked to look through the policy. I don't know if anyone has anything they'd like to see changed within it. So I'll go around the table and find out. Councillor Olmsted, do you see any changes you would like to have made?
No. No, it looks
No?
fine to me. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Shipman, do you see any changes you would like to have made?
I'd like to go through it a little bit more, because I just glanced at it really briefly. So, because we have until the 6th of October to submit changes or anything to Cindy, I wasn't planning on getting too deep into this today.
Okay. We don't have another meeting before then, though, right?
I don't think so.
Councillor Cross, any comments?
I haven't gone through it completely either, because I did think that we were not going to be discussing it until October 12th. One thing that I had written down was maybe in future, if we somehow post if we do have filming going on in the immediate area, in case it impedes traffic of some sort, so that people are aware and they can maybe take another route. But as of right now, that's all I've gotten so far. I thought we were going to be discussing this October 12th.
Did I ask you, Councillor Maxwell?
No, but I have nothing to add. It looks pretty detailed.
I read through it. The only thing I saw in it that I didn't like was on page 7, and it was concerning notification to the municipality, the staff, and that went out to our residents concerning road closures or anything like that. And it was suggested to be 3 days. I don't think that's enough time. I'd like to see perhaps 5 days, right? Just so that maybe you didn't check, I don't know, the website or whatever. I think 3 days is a little short, right? Even for staff to prepare for that. It might have to be, I don't know how their traffic monitoring is and how they're going to stop it, how it's going to flow, if they're going to provide that that work, or if they're going to request maybe our fire department to do it, but I don't think 3 days is enough. But can we bring this back at the meeting on October the 12th, Cindy? And then hopefully everybody will have a chance to review it by then. Okay? Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is report from the clerk treasurer, 2021 CT50, property standards bylaw. We had a couple of examples to look at. One was for Papineau Cameron, the other one was for Chisholm. They were pretty much the same, but I'll leave discussion up to you guys before I interject. Councillor Maxwell, do you have anything to suggest or you'd like to bring forward?
Yeah, I read through it all. It's this is one area where we have to tread lightly. I think that we could offend some customers, some ratepayers. I know, and I've been talking to people. People really don't want us to have anything to say what they do on their property. It's what I've been kind of told. Like keep your nose out of our property is what I've been kind of told when it comes to telling them, how they can. They have to cut their grass and probably have to paint their house and things like that. I mean, I know that's not in their paint, but probably have to paint your house, but I'll have to look at it in more detail. But it seems like this paper is geared more for city living or neighborhoods, whereas in the country it's a little bit different. I mean, I do appreciate everybody taking care of their property and not leaving a mess in front of their house, but we have to be careful how we tread on this one. That's all I have to say for now.
Okay, Councillor Cross.
I do agree with Dan as well. Before a report was even brought forth, there was a lot of comments about what we were going to do, but I mean, we didn't even know what we were going to do yet. So we are in a rural area. I do believe there are definitely some things in here that should be removed. Tread carefully for sure. I mean, I think this was pretty much brought forward because of some current concerns that was happening down Peddler's Drive and the situation that was happening down there. And I would never want to see that happen again. We do need to think about property values for everybody. Some may not have as much concern about what their yard looks like to maybe some others. So treading carefully on how we discuss this is important. But there was also something going on down, I believe, at Barbet Lake where there was some tents pitched, and a lot of people were talking about that and how there was a bunch of toilet paper left on the side of the road. And, sewage is definitely a huge concern when it comes to a lot of trailers and what they're doing with their waste matter and stuff like that. So I think this is definitely something we can look at. I believe there's a lot that we can take out of here that doesn't really pertain to us. But I think we should look at it closer.
Okay. Okay, so the request from the clerk treasurer was to provide information to the clerk treasurer by Wednesday, October the 6th. So are we still okay to move ahead with that?
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, along the same lines, yards and vegetation. I know that we are looking into not having weed control, but they're actually saying in here that we should weed control municipal property as well. And then steps, walkway, and driveways shall be maintained as to afford safe passage under normal use and weather conditions, be it in any season or day or night. If it's a snowstorm at midnight, you're not getting up a driveway. So there's a lot of things that need to change in here. So basically page number 10 needs to be removed as far as our rural community, in my opinion. But I'll put that in for Cindy later. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Chipman?
Yeah, I agree that we need to have more discussion and look this over a little more closely. And we are a rural area, so obviously we're not going to have, like, our neighbors aren't as close, but we still have to try to maintain some semblance of property values for everybody, not just certain areas. So, I mean, you don't want to have a pile of tires or 5 old cars that have been sitting there for 10 years sitting in your neighbor's property, because that's not really going to help you sell your house. So that's like, we're not talking about how high the grass is. If your neighbor usually keeps their grass nicely trimmed and their yard pretty good, and all of a sudden it's not, maybe you should go knock on the door because they're having an issue and they can't get out and do it. They could be having a problem. That might be something, but I don't really think we're looking at, oh, your grass is 6 inches tall, you better cut it. So.
Anything further?
No.
Okay, I looked through them both. Like I said, they were very similar. There was some items in there that I thought were appropriate. Other items that I thought were too stringent for municipal area. So I agree that we need to look at this a little more, but we can't just bring it to the next meeting and then do this again, all right? So go through them, stroke out what you don't want, okay, or what you'd like to change, and then we'll do that discussion at the next regular meeting. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see everybody nodding their heads, so, okay. So can you bring us to the 12th meeting, Cindy, please, if there's nothing too much on the agenda?
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so next item on the agenda is report from the clerk treasurer. It's 2021 CT 52, amendments to the bylaw 2020-020, hall rental and equipment use policy. Hold on. Everyone had a chance to go through this one? So, any discussion on this? I'm assuming everyone read through it. I think there were some good points in it, but Councillor Cross, any comments?
I'm a little concerned about how things change almost day to day with what the health unit expects and what we need to do to protect our staff and the municipality. I'd like to see maybe us use our Facebook or our app with providing more information about what is expected if there is something going on at the hall, whether it be a rental or a social gathering, or just so that people come prepared. I think it's really important. Just for an example, a couple of weeks ago, there was a funeral luncheon, and if these implements were in effect, where we would have to ask a 14-year-old for ID, I think that would be a little hard, especially because they probably don't carry ID around with them. So just letting them know ahead of time what would be expected if they come to the hall for whatever reason. Having that information out, because I would have felt horrible having to turn that person away and tell them that they weren't allowed to come in because they didn't have, but otherwise, no, I don't really have anything else to say.
Okay. Councillor Maxwell.
Nothing else. Is that a COVID question? Is that, I didn't quite understand what Sandy was saying, but Councillor Cross was saying that, is that the COVID yeah, so we have to maybe put a sentence there regarding COVID? All COVID rules have to apply or something like that. I have nothing else to add.
Okay, Councillor Olmsted?
I agree with both the councillors and their comments. That's all.
Okay, Councillor Shipman?
No, I agree with what Cindy has in what she would like to change in the different schedules.
Okay.
But I also, because the last page of the bylaw also goes over the like the ball diamonds and the rink and whatever. So I think we should also, not to say that you need to call every week to say, you know, like for baseball that you're going to be using the ball diamond, but just to kind of have a, so that the municipality knows that the intent is there to have a weekly ball game with a bunch of people at the diamond, so that we know it needs to be looked after a little bit more closely because it's actually being used, right? Like make sure that the holes are filled in if there is holes or that type of thing. And yeah, just kind of keep it more, I guess, maintained. Because if you don't, if we don't know that anybody's using any of these things, then how are we supposed to objectively keep it? Because we can just kind of go, oh, well, we don't have to cut it because nobody's using it right now. But they are using it. We just don't know that they're using it. So I just think that we should also have some type of something where the ball diamonds and soccer fields and everything are also, there's intent to use.
Okay. So that will be something else other than this, though, right?
Well, I don't know, because the last page has facility user and event liability.
Yeah, but
It lists all the events like badminton, bowling, basketball, volleyball. So I don't know.
yeah, I read it as like the second paragraph said the use of the community hall for events. So I don't, you know, I think what you're saying though for the ball field, you have to maintain your distances, and we have to be sure that we have it upkept properly so that somebody doesn't go over on their ankle and break their leg or whatever like that. So we do have to keep it maintained, all areas, the rink, the ball field, the soccer field, the parking lot, right? So have to do all that stuff.
But we also need to know for COVID, because it's an event, if you have 25 people out there playing hockey, then there needs to be some sort of listing and what they're asking for, just in case there is an outbreak. Because you have to be able to get a hold of all these people that were there.
But I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is we don't have enough staff to do that, all right? So if somebody is running that kind of an event, then it's up to them to take care of that.
I wasn't thinking that the staff would do it. It was whoever is running it. It needs to be the event coordinator. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I didn't look at it as the way that you were looking at it, Councillor Shipman. I looked at it as a community hall event. I didn't even think of the baseball diamond or the hockey rink or anything else. But I think this idea here for the hall, okay, if it's just for the hall, I think this is an excellent idea because it leaves it up to the renter or the person in charge of the event to take care of all these things. And if it's in the policy and that policy is provided to the event organizer, then it's up to them to follow those rules, okay? If we need to add something to the other part about letting us know if you're using something, I think if it was an organization who were doing something, then they should be contacting us. But if it's just like a gathering, like a scrum or whatever, and it's just people showing up to enjoy the facilities, then I don't know if we can do this. But so anyway, this one has presented to us. So we've had discussion. I should have called for a mover and seconder before we began. So I'm going to call for that mover and seconder now. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please? And Councillor Shipman, can you second it, please?
Sure.
Okay. Everybody, anything further for anyone they'd like to say? No? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Maxwell?
So this is the bylaw. How this reads is a little bit different than what we were looking at the bylaw here. This is talking about vaccine passport as well, right? And whether how we're going to implement that, or if we're going to require that in our facilities that we rent to. I think we need to have some discussion about the vaccine passport, and if that's how we all feel that we should be moving forward with. Well, am I reading?
This is saying that the province of Ontario has implemented the requirements for a vaccine passport for non-essential venues as of Wednesday, September the 22nd. So, whereas this would include the use of the community center hall for events, because we're one of these event centers, right?
Yes.
So it's just saying that the municipality doesn't have the staff to look after these events, okay, and make sure that everybody's following these rules, so that the person who is taking charge and who's obtaining the hall from us has to accept the responsibility to make sure that everyone is following the rules and to keep a contact list of the people who were there. And we don't have the staff to do it, so it's up to them to do it. It's not about Calvin developing a policy, right? This one here is not about that.
Okay. So this is going to be added to this. So the vaccine passport requirement is going to be added into this policy. Is that my understanding?
I don't know. That will be up to you guys. Sandy made that suggestion, I believe. But I don't know how it would be added. It's already there. So. What is it that you would like to see added?
Nothing other than just I didn't see vaccine passport in here in our policy. Maybe I missed it.
It doesn't say. It says the province has implemented the requirements for vaccine passport for non-essential venues as of Wednesday, September 22nd. We don't have that. All right. Cindy's got something to say. Go ahead, Cindy, please.
Just for clarification, so Councillor Maxwell, you're correct. It's not in the current bylaw or policy for the hall rental. What the recommendation is that we add the requirements. So the requirements are for screening. You have to screen everybody. Either you do it with an app, you do it with a piece of paper, or you ask a bunch of questions and you write the answers down. You then have to write the person's name and phone number down so that so we do contact tracing. And finally, you have to check their ID and the fact that they've had 2 doses. So all of those requirements, what we're recommending is instead of the staff having to man this, because we don't have that many staff to man events, that responsibility that has been implemented by the province be passed on to the event coordinator or the event organizer, whoever essentially whoever is renting the hall for the event, that responsibility becomes their responsibility. It's not the municipality's responsibility anymore. It's the event coordinator's responsibility, and the event coordinator has to provide that documentation back to the municipality. In the event that there is an outbreak from an event that takes place here, the municipality has to have a copy of that information so that we can do the appropriate contact tracing, or the health unit can do the appropriate contact tracing, et cetera. So the actual responsibility, the physical checking and everything, will become the responsibility of the event coordinator. And then the documentation must be provided back to the municipality so that we have it for our records. That our recommendation, this recommendation that is being discussed here, is that we put that into our policy because it's not currently in our policy.
Sounds good.
Okay, does that explain
Yes,
what
thank
we're
you.
looking for? Okay.
Okay, so any further discussion, Councillor Maxwell?
No further discussion. Thanks for that explanation.
Councillor Cross?
Nothing further.
Councillor Olmsted?
Nothing, thank you.
And Councillor Shipham?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. So let's bring this to a vote then, okay? Councillor Cross, you vote yes or no to add this to our policy, 2020-020.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes,
And Councillor Shipham?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so this resolution is also carried. Thank you. Stage management coordinator. I lost that next one for the appointment of community emergency management coordinator. Do you have that document?
Would you like to see the bylaw?
Yes, that one there, yeah. Okay, so this is our first reading for this, okay? And it's, I'll need a mover and a seconder for that. So Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Olmsted, could you second it, please?
yes, I can.
Okay. So this is a first reading of a bylaw to appoint a joint committee, community emergency management coordinators, CEMC, and their alternates for the Corporation of Municipal Calvin and for the Corporation of the Township of Papineau Cameron. Okay. So, and this is to be read for the first time tonight. So, any discussion? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Okay. Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted
No concerns.
and Councillor Shipham.
No discussion.
So I'm going to bring the first reading to a vote. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no to establish this, to appoint a joint community emergency management coordinator?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell,
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted,
Yes,
and Councillor Shipham.
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So the first reading is carried. Okay, so I'll need a mover and a seconder for the second reading. So Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Shipman, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we have a mover of Councillor Maxwell and a seconder of Councillor Shipman for the second reading of a bylaw to appoint a joint community emergency management coordinators and their alternates. So is there any discussion on this one? Councillor Cross,
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell,
No further discussion.
Councillor Olmsted,
No discussion.
and Councillor Shipman.
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call the second reading to a vote. Councillor Cross, do you vote to proceed, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, do you vote to proceed?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted
Yes.
and Councillor Shipman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I vote yes as well. So the second reading is carried. Okay. So the third reading we'll bring back at the next meeting. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a consent application for Ulrich Unincorporated Township. Okay. So I'll need a mover and a seconder on this one, please. Councillor Shipman, can you move this one?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Shipman and seconded by Councillor Maxwell. And whereas an application for consent 48-C-213002 in the name of Kelsaw has been filed with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on land known as PIN 49120-0076 Lot 9, Concession 8, Town Lake, Ulrich, Unincorporated Township of Nipissing District. There's a couple items in there they wanted to make us aware of. One is that the land could be used as a permanent dwelling, and the second is that there is no parking. So the area around Blanchard's Landing could be used for that parking for that home. There is further parking over at there's a camp next door there, just to the west a little bit. But that would be like a private parking, and they'd have to arrange that. This land is right across the lake. Like, there is no access there at all. In order to have access there, you'd have to come down the mountain, and that's just not going to happen. So they're just making us aware of this, okay? And that we approve them to go ahead with it. So that's basically the facts of it. Any discussion on this, Councillor Cross?
I was a little confused to know why this was brought to us because I'm not 100% sure how it would affect us, or how we would have any objections to it since it's not really in our township.
Right.
I mean, unless there's something they know, it's really hard to see something that might be in the future to cause issue. Otherwise, I have nothing else to say.
Councillor Maxwell?
Cindy would like to speak.
Yeah.
Cindy has her hand up. Can she go first?
All right. Cindy, please.
I just wanted to clarify, they're asking us because it abuts our townships and it uses our roads, or at least a portion of our roads. I'm sure they also sent this to Bondfield. So these people will be using access our infrastructure and our public areas, and that's why the ministry is asking us, because this is an unorganized township, and so all of the amenities they will be using ours. So they want to make sure that we're okay with it, because it's extra added stress or strain on our infrastructure and our public facilities and things like that. So that's why they're checking with us. That's why they asked the 3 questions they did about what do we think the probability is that somebody would have a permanent residence there? What is the probability, will it cause any further strain on our infrastructure, those types of things? That's why I've worded the motion the way I have. If council wants to change it to something else, that's prerogative. If they don't think it's high probability, change it.
Okay, thank you.
I have no problem with it the way it is. I'm fine approving it the way it is.
Councillor Cross, did I ask you already?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, Councillor Olmsted?
Yep, it's okay with me.
Okay, and Councillor Shipman?
The only question I had was, like, if it is going to be a permanent residence sometime in the future, or maybe I'm making winter parking, like, because the road is plowed by Bondfield.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I guess that's not going to affect our plow people, but yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that I was thinking of, was what if they're parked there and there's a major snowstorm, now what? How do they turn around? Or yeah. That's all that was my only concern.
Good thought. The other people who live across the lake as well, right? There's, I think there's Pedwell's, Greens have a couple of camps across there. I'm not sure if they use them for winter or not. I know they go over there in the wintertime, but so that would also fall upon Bondfield for their infrastructure usage. Okay, so I'm going to call this one to a vote then, if we approve this consent. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And Councillor Shipman?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this resolution is also carried. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda. It's a report from the clerk treasurer, 2021 CT 51. It was questions from council regarding rec maps. There was an item in our package, and it was about drawings, I believe, right? Task report of Mountain Municipal Recreation Area. Yes, Cindy?
Just to provide a little context to council. So in the September 14th regular council package, there was a report from the Recreation Landfill Cemetery Manager that mentioned the maps. Unfortunately, I forgot to put the maps in. They weren't in the council package, so they were sent to council by email. And then there was a question from a member of council in regards to what it pertained to, what the maps pertain to. So this is just sort of further explanation of what the maps pertain to. And because the recreation manager is not with us tonight, any questions that council may have in regards to the maps can be directed to him at the next council meeting.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is municipality of Calvin Roads, a request to transfer from road reserves for a new furnace and a venting for the garage. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for this one. Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Olmsted, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll read it. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Cross, seconded by Councillor Olmsted, that council deems it to be in the best interest of the municipality to replace the old furnace in the public works garage, as the venting needs to be changed at the same time as the siding and roof are being replaced. This furnace also no longer meets code and is a hazard as it has an open flame. And whereas the funds of approximately $7,000 were not included in the 2021 budget for this replacement of the furnace and venting, was not anticipated to be undertaken until 2021. Therefore, be it resolved that the council hereby authorizes the clerk treasurer to transfer funds in the amount of $7,000 from roads reserve to allow this important project to proceed in a timely manner and for the expense and revenue to be allocated to the applicable calendar year. All right, so any discussion on that? Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion. It needs to be done. We have to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Cross.
No, I agree.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted.
You know what needs to be done?
Okay. And Councillor Shipham.
I agree, it needs to be done.
Okay. I'm going to call this one for a vote then. Vote yes or no to make that transfer. Councillor Cross.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Maxwell.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted.
Yes.
Okay. And Councillor Shipham.
Yes.
Okay. And I vote yes as well. Okay. So this resolution is carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is L. It's a road use agreement between the municipality and Matthew and Stuart Wright. Okay. So this bylaw to authorize a road use agreement between Matthew and Stuart Wright and a corporation of the municipality of Calvin. So this will require 3 readings. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for the first reading. Councillor Cross, can you move that one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Olmsted, could you second that one, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we have this first reading of this bylaw to authorize a road use agreement between Matthew and Stuart Wright and the corporation of the municipality of Calvin. Any discussion? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
I see Cindy's hand is up. Can she speak before I do?
Oh, okay. Cindy.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one clarification. Unfortunately, in the bylaw, under item number 2, the name is incorrect. Correct everywhere else, but in item number 2, it should read Matthew and Stuart Wright, not what's written there. I just wanted to make that clarification with council. That'll be
So
corrected
can we
in
make that change?
version. Pardon?
Can we make that change?
Yeah, I actually have. You just call it up here so council can see it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so any further discussion? Councillor Maxwell? Okay, there's the changes there in front of us.
Yeah, I see that. Perfect. That's great. Good.
Oh,
Oh, yes, no discussion. Sorry, I couldn't remember where that's the end of number 10 no
Yeah.
discussion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
no discussion.
Councillor Shipley?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'd like to call the first reading to a vote to authorize this road use agreement. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes,
Councillor Shipley?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So the first reading is carried. Second reading, I need a mover and a seconder for that one as well. Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Shippen, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, the second reading is in front of us, moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Shippen. And this is a second reading of the bylaw to authorize a road use agreement between Matthew and Stuart Wright and the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin. Any discussion on this reading? Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
no discussion.
And Councillor Shippen?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call a vote on the second reading. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no to enter in this
Yes.
agreement? Yes?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes,
And Councillor Shippen?
Yes.
Okay, I vote yes as well. So the second reading is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so next item on the agenda is a item from the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit concerning workplace vaccination policy toolkit. Okay. So the resolution is to ask the clerk to go ahead with doing research in the development of a vaccination policy to protect municipal employees and the public. So I'll need a mover and a seconder to discuss this. Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Councillor Cross, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Cross, that the Council of the Corporation Municipality of Calvin hereby request the clerk treasurer to proceed with the research and development of a workplace vaccination policy to protect municipal employees and the public. Any discussion, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
That's a good idea. No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
no discussion.
And Councillor Shippen?
No discussion.
Okay, so let's bring this one to a vote, please. Will we vote yes or no to proceed with Cindy doing research and development of a policy for us? Councillor Cross, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell,
Yes.
you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
Yes,
Thank you. And Councillor Shipman?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried. Okay, so, next item on the agenda is a, resolution. I'll need a mover and a seconder for it. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Shipman, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is a resolution moved by, Councillor Olmsted, seconded by Councillor Shipman, that the Council of the Corporation Municipality of Calvin hereby authorizes the extension of landfill hours on Tuesday, December 28th only, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to allow the public a larger window of opportunity to dispose of their refuse, since the landfill will be closed on Saturday, December 25th, 2021, and January the 1st, 2022. Any discussion on this? Councillor Cross,
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell,
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted.
Thank you. No discussion.
Okay, Councillor Shipman?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call this to a vote to extend the landfill hours from, 10 to 4 on that day. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And Councillor Shipman?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so this resolution is also passed. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda was O. It was Municipal World, creating a safer and brave spaces in a municipal environment. Then after that, we have P. It was an addition to the agenda by, requested by Councillor Maxwell, concerning a Castle Home flyer that was delivered to our residents, I believe it was last Friday. Okay? So please proceed, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Panel. I just thought that it was important that we give this its due attention, as it's one of the main budgeting items going forward, and we are expected to download a lot of this onto our ratepayers. And I would just like our ratepayers to get the full picture of what it's going to cost them as a ratepayer in our area, and our percentage-wise, and maybe a little explanation of why we're committed that we can't get out of this this arrangement that we have. I just thought that, you know, we paid for this this big flyer that went out, and it probably was pretty expensive to make. I haven't got up my window yet, but I'm sure there's some in the township somewhere. And I just thought that we could put a fact sheet together and put something out to the public to just to give them our opinions and how this has proceeded over the years and how we got to where we are. And to some degree, I feel that our hands are tied, because this is kind of being forced on us because of agreement back in '61 when this all first started, and everybody thought it was a good idea to have a nursing home in the area. Now nursing home has become a big business and expensive. And people are asking, you know, why do we have to support this when we have Mattawa nursing home in our area? And there's just a lot of questions in the public, and there's a lot of good information there. This could cost us $100,000 a year, because I think our operating cost for this is, I think it's around 35 we're paying already. Now the addition of the loan that we have to see, which is going to be around 60,000 a year. I think we're putting a big burden on our taxpayers, and we have to. They're not going to be. It's a really big burden, I think, and it's unreasonable for them to ask us to do this in such a small tax base. But I'm not sure how we can move forward on this. But it seems like they're taking it to the public now. Is this going to be a public fight or an opinion of the public? They're trying to get everyone on board with it. And I mean, everybody wants to have a nursing home. If you have an elder person in your family, it's hard to get them into a nursing home. Their waiting lists are crazy. But the cost that this is coming at is just it's almost unbearable for our taxpayers, and we have to do something. I feel. I don't know if anyone has any suggestions. I'm suggesting a fact sheet letter put out in our next flyer, saying giving them the facts from our point of view, because it is a bit of a rosy brochure. I thought it didn't really tell you how much it's going to cost everyone. There's a percentage in there on shows how much our percentage is of 1.46%. But our ratepayers have to know how much that is actually, because it's a big amount. I don't know. I think the province needs to bail this out, and they haven't done that yet. I mean, they're contributing some, but well, quite a bit, I guess. But I don't. I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say.
Okay, so, okay, you brought that forward. Okay, so I'll need a mover and a seconder to be able to discuss this, okay?
Okay. Yes.
So, Councillor Shipman, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and Councillor Cross, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Shipman, second by Councillor Cross, that council hereby requests staff to prepare a fact sheet on how the Castle Home financing will affect the property owners in Calvin and include it in the October monthly newsletter. Okay, so now I'm going to ask for input or suggestions from council. Dan, I think you're probably close to being finished.
Yes.
Sandy, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I'm in complete agreement with this. I think we need to have a voice with letting our ratepayers know what is going on. Try to make it more understandable for people. I mean, when you hear 1.6 or one, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you put the numbers to it, it is huge. Also, an explanation on how this would, our ALS will be affected with loaning and our infrastructure. I think Dan's got a great idea here that we need to start putting out more information this way, advocating for ourselves. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
I think that they need to be told how angry we are. We're not just going along with it. We're being forced. And the dollar value would be very motivating to get everybody else on board, and maybe a larger voice would help our cause.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Councillor Shipham?
No, I agree with everything that everybody said. I think that we need to start voicing our own opinions and not just what the Castle Home people want us to believe. That was a pretty little picture that they painted on that flyer, but nowhere near reality for most of the folks that live in and around this area. And I don't believe that we should be allowing them to railroad us without having some sort of say about how we feel about it.
Okay, one more time. Councillor Cross.
Maybe a suggestion that we ask our constituents to write a letter to our head government about our situation as well. The more voices in that aspect might be beneficial. So encourage them to reach out to Vic Fedeli, Ray Ryota,
Anthony Rhoda?
Dan, I think you had something else you wanted to say?
Other than just that, if this does get imposed on us, I don't know if it's possible or not, but I would like it to see almost a separate item on the tax bill that shows you see the separate school board taxes. There's a separate item, but it's almost a big enough item that if it's going to be around $300 per person, I would like that to be displayed on our tax bill as a Castle Home payment, and not as like something that we have something control over. If it comes down to that, I mean, it's sort of looking farther down the road, but our first point, I think that we should fight it, and we should and just make sure that our ratepayers understand what they're buying, that they're buying a mortgage on a nursing home, and they're going to have to pay for it. A few of our residents do understand, have a good understanding of it, but the majority of them, I don't think they realize how big of a deal this is.
I agree. Okay. There's some things that are still confidential, okay? And I'm not, I agree that we should be sending out something to our ratepayers to tell them about what we know and what we don't know. Castle Home painted us a pretty little picture in that flyer they sent out last week, and it was propaganda, like straight up front, right? They're trying to make, it didn't go out to Bonfield, okay? It went out to Papineau Cameron, Calvin, and I'm not sure if it went to the town of Mattawa or not. But not everybody got it. South Algonquin, I think they might have received it as well. It was to the dissidents. It was to the people who were in disagreement to what Castle Home was proposing. And they haven't got it. They've told us that they want to levy us for our payment. And in one hand, they say they want one payment. Then they said they wanted 4 payments. I think I read in a flyer that it'd be payable over 25 years. So they're not staying in one place. They're making all kinds of different suggestions. And I'm not sure if you guys know, or whoever is listening online, is that this request was made to Administrative Long-Term Care. And Administrative Long-Term Care hasn't agreed for them to do this, all right? It's not saying that they're not going to, but I do agree with sending Mr. Fideli a letter, okay, or call or whatever, to explain to him that this is just way too much, okay? We can't afford it. It's going to be like, I think it's $1.14 million for Calvin, and that's a pretty big chunk of money for this little municipality. So I think we can get something together. I did write a letter at one point to the board a long time ago when they were meeting in East Ferris, so maybe we can take that and add some history to it. Cindy has a lot of information, and we can look back through our notes. We've also made requests to Castle Home and to their representatives for information that they're not providing us. They're kind of like they're ignoring us, but they're not telling us what they're doing. Like, we've asked about the payments. We've asked about, well, when can we get rid of this payment to Castle Home? If we pay this levy you're trying to put onto us, they're just not answering. So it's pretty difficult to know exactly what's going on when we're not being told, all right? So now we've got the mayor of North Bay, who's resigned from the board, and Dean Baker from Mattawa, who resigned, it was last Friday. I think it was last Friday. It was in the paper the other day. But I'm in agreement that our residents should know what's going on. This first started when I was on the Castle Home board, like I think it was my first council run. So it's a long time ago. And back then, if I'm remembering properly, I think the cost was going to be like $43 million, okay? And now it's 200 and some. So, Cindy, do you have anything you want to say, or will we just move ahead with the resolution?
Just one other question I'd like from council. So, further to what Mayor Pennell was indicating, that we are not being provided an abundance of information from Castle Home. Does council want to reply back to Castle Home in regards to this flyer, that municipalities weren't letting know that this flyer was going out?
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, until Councillor Maxwell brought it up, I had no idea. I had to ask him to send me a picture of it because I had no idea what he was talking about.
Okay. I thought one would have got delivered to the mailbox down there. I wonder why it didn't. I'm sure they probably paid to have one to go to every mailbox, right? So, I don't know if our mail person is shirking their duties or whatever.
We don't get flyers here, so my guess is that's why we didn't get a copy of it. It's maybe considered a flyer, so that's probably, I'm assuming that's why we didn't get a copy of it.
Yeah.
But
Okay, that could be.
I'm just, does council want to write a letter to Castle Home asking them why they sent this out, or what the point was, or do you just want to let it go and just educate our constituents about
Yeah,
the missing information?
I'd like to send a letter to them and say, what were you thinking, Chris?
Mhm.
Basically, that's where it's come from, right? Chris and Jamie, right? So I feel, anyway, that's my thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, the fact that it was just revealed that not everybody got it, only the townships that they were concerned about. It just seems that that's not the proper way to do business, and that it should, they're sort of crossing us by going directly to our ratepayers and not going through us. And really, we're the ones who have to collect the money from our ratepayers, and all communications should be coming through our council, as far as I'm concerned. And to jump over us.
What they're hoping to do was they're not getting the agreement from the different municipalities, so now they're going out to the ratepayers in hopes that they can provide them with all this information that's not really totally true, and get them to go after us as a group of councillors, trying to get us to change our minds, okay? But, like, actually, from reading that flyer, okay, like, I don't know why anyone will want to support it. Like, I really don't. Other than, like, we need homes for our seniors, yes, we do, all right? But the cost is just absorbent, right?
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah,
okay,
I
so
think both.
we're going to send a letter to Castle Home and ask them what the purpose of their propaganda mailing was. And then I'm going to ask for a vote if council wants us to proceed with a fact sheet for information regarding Castle Home. So, Councillor Cross, how do you vote on the fact sheet?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And Councillor Maxwell?
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. I agree with both letters.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and Councillor Shipham?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. So this resolution is also carried. Thank you all for your support. Okay. Next item on the agenda is information letters. Anything in there to respond to? Councillor Croft?
No, nothing I saw.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yeah, the two at the end, I found them interesting. I'd like to thank Dan McKinnon for explaining the track marks that we were all curious about on the road the day we had, on Stewart's Road the day we had looked at it. Appreciated that letter. And the one ahead of that too was the National Farmers Union put their 2 cents in, which was kind of interesting. I'm sure we'll be discussing this probably in the future. I don't know if you've ever actually had closure on this issue or not. I don't remember it coming up and voting on this. I know we did discuss in a closed meeting at one point that topic, but seems to be continuing on the Stewart's Road topic.
Councillor Cross?
Yes,
Anything on the
Mayor
letter?
Pennell? No, I already said I had nothing to say.
Okay. I didn't check you off, sorry. Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, it's very concerning when the president of the National Farmers Union writes us a personal letter. I take that very seriously. And I do appreciate Dan McKinnon's letter as well.
Right. Councillor Shippen?
Councillor Cross had something that she got her
Oh.
hand up there.
Okay, she's already spoken once, so I was gonna go to you first and then go back to her.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, Councillor Cross.
I was just going to say that there has been a decision made regarding Stewart's Road. And if we're going to discuss it, it needs to be a point of procedure and needs to be brought back by a motion of consideration. I think we need to be following our own bylaws. So Stewart's Road has already been dealt with. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like that's for that.
Just further to that, I think that we discussed in closed meeting, I think we did not have a resolution come out of that. We were kind of stuck. If I remember, we were like tied and we didn't move forward on that movement. We were stuck, and I expect that we would go back to that discussion. I don't think we had a final resolution that we passed on either way on that Stewart's Road issue and the winter maintenance, and it keeps coming up with maintenance in general on that road. I think that we have to do something about this issue. I don't remember it being resolved. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember the exact date that we discussed it, other than that closed portion that we discussed it and we had all the information and everything. But I think that we should put on the agenda for future, or maybe we need to have a committee, put a roundtable committee or something, discuss and bring forward some solutions to it. But I think that as a council, that's one issue that we're probably going to leave our term with being unresolved. That's what I feel, because we are a bit of a deadlock in that opinion, that situation.
Yeah, only if we don't resolve it and we keep bringing it up and not resolving it. You're right, it will continue. Councillor Cross, one last go.
Just going to reiterate, point of procedure. If you want to bring it back up, it needs to be brought back as a motion for reconsideration.
Okay, I remember something being passed about that, right? So, but I don't recall if it was in a closed or open meeting. But if it would have been in a closed meeting, it would have been brought out of the meeting to follow that directive, right? It would have been a directive. So it would have to be a notice of reconsideration, okay, submitted, and then that notice of reconsideration would need to be voted on and accepted by a majority of council in order for it to be reconsidered. And if it's not reconsidered, then it would not come up for at least a 1-year period. Okay?
Sure.
So we can look at that. Councillor Maxwell.
I did have a motion on the table at that meeting, and I withdrew the motion because I knew it wasn't going to pass. So I took the motion off the table. So I don't remember ever putting that motion to a defeat or a pass. I put a motion on about maintaining Stewart's Road in the winter, and I withdrew the motion after the closed portion because there was not support for it. So I just took it off the table. I think we were going to discuss it again later.
Okay, I'm going to ask Cindy if she can look that up to find out for sure. Would you be able to do that, please, Cindy?
I can.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks a lot. Thanks everybody for that. Okay, so let's move on here. So there's no information letters available. Old and new business doesn't exist any longer. Accounts approval report. Has everybody had a chance to go through the the statements for that was in our council package as well as the one that was sent out today? That was also one of the things in Mr. Cuff's presentation, right? About the need to do this every meeting. All right. Any do we have a resolution for that? Okay, so I'll need a mover and a seconder for this disbursements resolution. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Maxwell, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we have this resolution moved by Councillor Olmsted, seconded by Councillor Maxwell, that the disbursements dated September 23rd, 2021, in an amount of $107,624.54, and September the 18th, 2021, in the amount of $4,108.47, be hereby authorized and passed for payment. Any discussion or questions? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted.
No discussion.
Councillor Shipham.
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call for a vote that these disbursements be authorized for payment. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
Councillor Shipham?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is we move into a closed portion. So item number 11, that this portion of the meeting now be closed under Municipal Act 2001 as per section 239, 3.1, educational or training sessions regarding closed meeting protocols and best practices. I need a mover and a seconder to do this, please. Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one?
Yes, I can.
And Councillor Shitten, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, any discussion on moving into a closed portion? Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
And Councillor Shitten?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call for a vote for approval to move into the closed session. Councillor Cross? You vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And Councillor Shipham?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So we're going to move into a closed session now.